and welcome to This Week at the Movies. I'm Matt, and it is the first weekend in November. We have a slew of wide releases and a hotly anticipated film landing on Netflix after a limited theatrical run. I am going to run through those. It is a pretty big week. There are even more movies that are kind of out there in limited release and making their way through. We also have another big week on the 14th with a lot of big releases, and then a huge week the week before Thanksgiving with Wicked for Good and big week in Thanksgiving. All this to say, November is a packed schedule. So what is going to stand out? Well, I want to kick off with what might be the biggest of the theatrical releases, and that is Predator: Badlands. This one coming from director Dan Trachtenberg, who worked on The Screen Story with Patrick Azin. This one, the second of his feature films. He also had the kind of animated anthology series Predator: Killer of Killers, which came out earlier this year, but in 2022 had the movie Prey that was on the streaming service Hulu. Kind of a backdoor way into this world. You know, most people, myself included, went in not even realizing that was going to be part of the Predator franchise. But he talked about, with a return to the big screen, a place they haven't been since 2018, he wanted something that was a spectacle worthy of the big screen. And let me tell you, Predator: Badlands fits the bill. This one we watch from the point of view of a predator named Deck. We meet him as he is on his home world. Turns out he has an icy relationship with his father, who thinks he's weak, but he has a brother, Qui, who looks after him and kind of, you know, tries to help for the best for him and wants to give him a chance to change that image with his clan and to make his bones. So sets him up with a hunt. He arrives on this killer planet, trying to hunt down this killer target that no one has been able to get. And the planet is proving very challenging when he comes across Thea, played by Elle Fanning, who is a synthetic being who was sent there by the Weyland-Yutani Corporation. So getting that Predator alien synergy going again. But this time the Weyland-Yutani synths were sent to the planet to look for the same creature and to catalog things. So they decide to team up, helping each other. This one, very interesting. You know, throughout the history of these films, which kicked off with the original Predator film in 1987, the Predators have been these kind of killing machines that didn't have a lot of depth of emotion or depth of character. They were the villains. This film is almost like a what if Michael Myers turned out to just be a misunderstood cool guy? That's kind of what they do, but it works. This one gets a thumbs up from me. I like the visuals. I like the action sequences. The story was really engaging. It's not too much to say this is my favorite Predator film so far. I really liked what they did with Prey, but I liked this even better. And this seemingly sets up a potential franchise that could go in a bit of a different direction. And you know what? I would be here for it. I thought Elle Fanning was very good. I thought the back and forth, there was some humor, there was some levity, there was some depth of emotion and character. There were some great action sequences. I really enjoyed Predator: Badlands, and I think if you are a fan of the franchise or you are just a fan of a well-made action blockbuster, you will be into it as well. So as I said, that one gets a thumbs up. Really surprisingly enjoyed quite a bit what was going on there. Another big release today is the Netflix film Frankenstein. This one coming from Guillermo del Toro. It got a limited theatrical run the last 2 weeks. It stars Oscar Isaac as Victor Frankenstein, Jacob Elordi as the Frankenstein's creature. Also has Christoph Waltz, Mia Goth in the film as well, a few other people. It is his own version, his own telling of the classic Mary Shelley novel that has been part of popular culture since the early 1800s when it was written. This one, a fantastic look, some really great performances. A very interesting take on this world and the story. I was into it. I thought it looked very strong. This one gets a strong thumbs up from me as well. I like this a lot. This is actually moved into my top 10 for the year. Couple of really good Netflix films we've gotten already. I was one that really liked A House of Dynamite. I like this film as well. It is a big year for Netflix. In fact, it's a big month for big Netflix releases. We have Nouvelle Vague coming next week from Richard Linklater. We also, a little bit later this month, have Train Dreams. The next month, Jay Kelly, another Knives Out film. It has been a good year for Netflix films. Frankenstein really continues that. I could see it doing quite well in the award season campaign, especially for production values, costumes. They do a very good job here. I like the way this story was laid out and told. I had a lot of fun with it. I wish Netflix may have considered releasing it last Friday, for Halloween, because it kind of fits in there, but it is kind of a timeless monster movie classic. I think if you are a fan of these kind of movies, or you've been a fan of Guillermo del Toro's work before, the guy that has given us Pan's Labyrinth, Hellboy, among others, you will enjoy what he has done here. This one, his first live action one for Netflix, he did his own take on Pinocchio, which I really enjoyed, which won the Oscar for Best Animated Film and was the best of the animated films that year. A very creative film. This is a very creative film in another genre that I think should do well. So definitely worth checking out. Going back to theaters, a couple other movies that are making wide releases that have strong female characters at the core. The first is Die, My Love. This one was acquired by Mubi and is getting a theatrical run before it drops on the streaming service. It did really well in its festival run. Jennifer Lawrence plays a woman named Grace, who is in a relationship with Jackson, played by Robert Pattinson. They move into kind of an isolated home in Montana. She gets pregnant, she has a baby, and it begins to be a struggle going with some of the emotions and the feelings that come with motherhood in addition to isolation begins to take its toll on Grace and to take its toll on Grace and Jackson's relationship. This one is based on a novel. It was a passion project for Jennifer Lawrence, who got the novel and pushed it through with her production company, working with director Lynn Ramsey, who helped co-write this script. There are some stunning visuals here, but this is really not so much about a straightforward narrative or story, because in fact, if you were looking for that, this may be a bit of a turnoff for you, but this is really about a mood, about a internal journey, trying to capture that internal journey and struggle of one woman during this period. Jennifer Lawrence is phenomenal, one of the best lead female performances I've seen this year. This is definitely a tough movie to watch at times. A lot of emotions will be stirred up if it's not something you've gone through personally, as obviously I haven't. You have to find a way to connect and engage, but I think that they do such a nice job with this material, and Jennifer Lawrence does such a nice job. I'm giving this one a thumbs up as well. I just think her performance is phenomenal, and some of the visuals that Ramsey comes up with, some of the sequences here were very moving and very well shot as well. So a different kind of movie, not the action blockbuster that you're going to get with Predator, but definitely a worthy watch, especially to catch Jennifer Lawrence's performance. The other wide release is the movie Christie. This one, a performance, another strong female-led performance, this time from Sydney Sweeney, who plays Christy Salters, who became Christy Martin, who was the famous women's boxer. It really chronicles her early life, how she got into the sport, her struggle with her family, particularly her mother, Joyce, played by Merritt Weaver, and her toxic marriage with her manager, Jim Martin, played by Ben Foster. A lot of themes. This one starts in the 90s, a very solid period piece, but probably a little too long. It clocks in around 2 hours and 20 minutes. You feel that length. This is another story that is somewhat punishing. This is a more linear narrative, but rather than focusing on some of the highs of her career. And I will say the moments in the ring, the boxing sequences were the places for me where this soared the best. I also thought Sweeney was good. She was captivating. Foster does a decent job as Jim Martin. His character just so unlikable that may resonate with some more than others. Her story is very tragic, but then takes a happier turn. Unfortunately, this movie really focuses on the struggles and the dark part and kind of culminates with this really darkest moment and turning point. You get some post-credit sequences that or credit sequences that tell you about the way she was able to build on these tough and tragic circumstances and turn it into something positive. But you don't get much of that actually in this biopic. And so I described it as a somewhat punishing watch. I think it's well done enough. I would have cut it down a little bit and maybe tried to put a little more focus on her time and successes in the ring, which you only really get a briefest of snapshots. They spend more time on some of the fights that she lost, and that's a little bit of a tough one too, because she did have a very successful and celebrated early boxing career, even if her personal life and some of the trauma she was enduring out of the ring was difficult and a bit of a mess. So I'm giving this one a thumbs neutral. Again, Sydney Sweeney probably became a little bit of a polarizing figure thanks to that ad campaign. You may have certain connotations of her as an actress based on some of the roles she's taken. If you were a fan of the show Euphoria, I enjoyed Anyone But You. I thought that was fun, but we've really seen her kind of stretch in different roles this year. Ron Howard's movie Eden was another movie that was probably a little too long and a little too disjointed, but I thought that her performance was the best part of that movie. For me, she was the best part of this movie, Christy, as well. I've been impressed by some of the way she stepped up into some of the roles this year. So worth seeing for her performance, especially if you're into boxing films or biopics or sports biopics. This does pretty well, but doesn't quite reach the heights of maybe the potential of the material. Well, that'll do it for me this week. That is a wrap on This Week at the Movies. This is a packed week at the movies. We have another packed week next week. We'll be talking about Running Man for sure. Also, probably now the third film in the Now You See Me series. I will also give my thoughts on Nouvelle Vague and In Dreams, which is a new animated film from Netflix. So just a lot of movies continuously coming out, a lot to check out this month. Hope you get a chance to check them out. Until then, we'll see you at the movies.